The knock comes at 10 to 7, while dinner's still on the stove. Two shapes through the fly screen: light blue shirts, a wagon at the curb with the checkered band. You open the inside door, and the taller one says it almost kindly. "Evening, we've had a call about you." Not a charge, not a question. 7 words engineered to make you fill the silence, and most people do, inside 30 seconds, standing in their own doorway. Here's what nobody tells you. In New South Wales alone, police attend around 560 family violence call-outs every day. The law governing what happens next was written by the High Court of Australia. And one man who got it wrong on his own doorstep was awarded $418,000 at trial. The door you're holding is a legal line. Almost everyone surrenders it in the first minute. Steam drifts from the kitchen behind you. Through the mesh, the second officer's eyes travel along your windows. Hold one idea before anyone speaks again. The law lets anyone, the postman, a salesman, a constable, walk your path and knock. The High Court calls it an implied license. Steam drifts from the kitchen behind you. Through the mesh, the second officer's eyes travel along your windows. The ladder tonight runs knock, chat, invitation, search. And unlike your car, your home is where the law's protection runs deepest, if you know where the line sits. So here's the deal. By the end of this video, you'll have one sentence built to be said through the screen that holds the threshold without breaking a single law, and a warning that matters more here than in any video this channel has made. There's one knock where that sentence must stay in your pocket. Use it at the wrong door, and blocking them becomes the crime. I'll show you which knock that is. One more marker. The move that empties houses isn't the knock. It's the friendly request that comes after you answer. First, the man who told 6 police to leave his flat and what the High Court said about it. Quick word before the door. No invented career on this channel. Just plain English Australian law. Checked against the statutes, every section in the description. And let's be straight. Police knock on hundreds of doors a night doing work somebody has to do. Some of those knocks save lives. That's exactly why the rules at the door are written down, and why you should know them as well as they do. Now the proof. Sydney, 2001. Report of a couple fighting brings 6 officers to a small flat. By the time they arrive, the woman has left. The man lets them look around, then asks them more than once to leave. They stay. It ends in a struggle. And 7 years later, it ends in the High Court of Australia. Kuru versus New South Wales. Once he withdrew his permission, the officers had no power to remain. From that moment, the court held they were trespassers in his home. At trial, he'd been awarded $418,000, aggravated and exemplary damages included. The highest court in the country spent an entire judgment on the moment permission gets withdrawn at a door, because that moment decides everything that follows. But before you learn what you can refuse at your own door, the short list of what you can't. The door has traps on both sides. The twist is buried in the must list itself. At your car, the owed list was long. Stop, details, license, breath, saliva. At your own front door, it's startlingly short. And that's precisely why the traps work. What you genuinely owe, if police name a real power, an arrest, an emergency, a domestic violence response, you never physically block them. Not the doorway, not a hand on the frame. Hindering runs up to 12 months under Section 546C of the Crimes Act in New South Wales, 60 penalty units in Victoria under Section 51(2) of the Summary Offences Act, roughly $6,500 in Queensland under Section 790 of the PPRA. If a specific trigger fires, they reasonably suspect you of an offence. You give your name and address. Section 11 of LEPRA, a $220 fine for refusing. Victoria's Section 456 AA. Queensland Sections 40 and 41. Some doors carry standing obligations, bail, firearms, parole, and the hard line early. No laminated sign overrides an Act of Parliament. The do not consent sticker is not a force field. But absent those triggers, the list ends there. One number for scale. The NSW Police Watchdog puts domestic and family violence at about 40% of all NSW police work, around 180,000 home call-outs a year. That's the machine behind tonight's knock. And the 7 words it arrives with are engineered. Watch what they're built to do. We've had a call about you. No offence named, no caller named, no power named. That's not sloppiness, that's the design. The sentence is a vagueness engine, and its only job is to make you supply everything it left out. Your mind races the possibilities. Your mouth follows the fastest one out. Is this about the fence thing? Because that was months ago and he started it. And there it is, a grievance, a timeline, an admission, volunteered, on a body-worn camera at your own front door, possibly about something they'd never heard of until you said it. Because know this, an anonymous call by itself is not reasonable grounds for anything. The oldest rule on this channel, suspicion needs a factual basis more than a possibility, applies to telephones too. A phone that rang is evidence of nothing except a phone that rang. Somebody with your address and a grudge can make one for free. So the wrong response is the guesser, auditioning his own suspects through the flyscreen. The counter costs 5 words. The counter costs 5 words. What's this about specifically? Now the engine runs in reverse. They fill the silence on camera with particulars, or they can't. Vagueness told you everything. Whoever specifies first loses ground. But to hold a door, you need to know what the law says a door is. And the High Court answered that with a story about a driveway. Melbourne, 1984. A disqualified driver, an open driveway, and a question that went all the way to the top. When police walk onto your property uninvited, are they trespassing? The High Court said no. The High Court said no. And in saying no, drew the map every doorstep in Australia still runs on. An open path, an unlocked gate, no sign forbidding entry carries an implied licence for anyone with a legitimate purpose, in the words the court adopted, to come through the gate, up the steps and knock on the door of the house. Halliday versus Neville. And that is the whole licence. Up the path, knock, ask. It does not include entering. It does not include searching, circling to the backyard, or pressing against your windows. The postman gets the same licence. The constable gets no more. And the counter is written into the same judgment. The licence can be revoked at any time. Words do it. Please leave is enough. A locked gate does it before anyone arrives. Once revoked, police holding no other power aren't officers on duty at your door. The law calls them trespassers, owed nothing but a reasonable time to walk back down the path. So the wrong assumption is the one nearly everybody makes, that their presence on your porch proves some power brought them there. It proves nothing, which is exactly why the trained moves go around it. Trap 1. Can you step outside for a chat? Friendly, casual, catastrophic. Inside your doorway, you stand where the law's protections run strongest. Behind a threshold, 4 centuries of common law treats as a wall. On the porch, you're in the open, readable head to toe, arrestable with no threshold in the way. Your open door now framing everything visible inside, like a lit shop window. Plain view feeds grounds. Trap 2, mind if we come in? Easier than standing out here. The consent harvest, the door-shaped cousin of the car question this channel, has already spent a full video on. The short version, your yes supplies every power they lack. The case that proves it is called Leonard, and the full breakdown is pinned below. Once they're inside, everything in sight is in play, and getting them out again is a negotiation Mr. Kuru took all the way to the High Court. The counter to both traps is the same, and notice it isn't a refusal, it's a location. I'm happy to talk right here. The screen stays latched, the feet stay planted. One number, because it explains the skill gap at your door. NSW, police attended 152,268 domestic and family violence incidents in 2024, 560 a day. The knock and talk is the most rehearsed move in Australian policing. And if you're reaching for the American playbook right now, for once, don't throw the whole thing away. This is the one door where part of it actually works. Every video on this channel has said, leave it at the border. Tonight, the exception. Tonight, the one exception, the twist this whole video turns on. In the US, the doorstep script is come back with a warrant. And at an Australian front door, that instinct is nearly right. To enter and search your home, Australian police generally need a warrant, your consent, or a specific emergency power. Compare your car. No warrant needed there. Reasonable suspicion alone opens a boot on the side of a highway. The threshold flips the rule because the common law has guarded the home for 4 centuries, and Australia inherited every stone of it. Plenty versus Dillon, High Court, 1991. The threshold flips the rule because the common law has guarded the home for 4 centuries, and Australia inherited every stone of it. Plenty versus Dillon, High Court, 1991. The poorest man may in his cottage bid defiance to all the forces of the crown. The storm may enter, the rain may enter, but the King of England cannot enter. And the court added its own warning. Nothing breeds disorder like the unlawful invasion of a person's rights, particularly when the invader is a government official. We're close to the sentence now, but that word generally is carrying weight. This channel names its gaps. 4 doorways bypass the warrant entirely, including the one where your own refusal can be overridden by another voice inside your own house. Doorway 1. Arrest. Under Section 10 of LEPRA, police who reasonably believe a person they're entitled to arrest is inside can enter to take them. Victoria sets the bar higher. Section 459A requires a serious indictable offence. Doorway 2. Emergency. Section 9. A breach of the peace happening or about to, or reasonable grounds to believe someone inside is seriously hurt or in imminent danger of it. Queensland writes it as Section 609. Doorway 3, the widest and the one to understand precisely, domestic violence. Under Section 82, an officer can enter on the invitation of the person they believe is the victim, even if you expressly refuse. Read that again. Your door, your refusal. Lawfully overridden by someone else's invitation. Victoria's Section 157 and Queensland's 609 carry their own versions. Doorway 4, the standing obligations, bail, firearms, parole. And when police invent a doorway that isn't there, the courts have shown what it costs. New South Wales versus Ibbott, An officer chasing a young man dives under a closing garage roller door, pistol drawn, and points it at the 60-something mother inside. No power, no justification. The High Court upheld $100,000 against the state, $45,000 of it exemplary damages, punishment money for a doorway. So the rule across all four: never adjudicate the power on the doormat. Ask for it to be named, comply in full if it is, and let a courtroom price it later. Now the sentence: built for the screen door and welded to a warning. The shape through the mesh is waiting. You keep the latch on and through the screen evenly, once. Officer, I'm happy to speak through the door. What's this about, and do you have a warrant or power to enter? I don't consent to you entering, and I'd rather not answer questions. Again, slower, because the second pass is the one that keeps. Officer, I'm happy to speak through the door. What's this about, and do you have a warrant or power to enter? I don't consent to you entering, and I'd rather not answer questions. Save this screen. Say it once tonight at your own front door, so it lives in the door frame and not in a notes app. Now every clause. I'm happy to speak through the door. Cooperation located. It kills the word uncooperative and holds the threshold in the same breath. What's this about? The vagueness engine thrown into reverse. Do you have a warrant or power to enter? The twist made operational. At this line, unlike your car window, the question has real teeth, and naming the power is their statutory job under Section 202, not your guess. I don't consent to you entering. Halliday's revocation spoken. The implied licence withdrawn on their own camera. And the High Court has told you what that recording is worth. Courts that fail to remedy the unlawful invasion of rights, the judges wrote, invite anarchy, particularly when the invader is a government official. I'd rather not answer questions. Silence, exercised where no traffic stop trigger can reach it. How you say it does half the work. Through the screen, level, almost bored. The latch does not lift, and neither does your voice. And welded to this sentence comes the warning from the start, the one knock where all of it stays in your pocket. Here it is, before any rehearsal. If the officers at your door are responding to a genuine emergency, a welfare crisis, or a domestic violence call, if they name Section 9, Section 82, Section 609, or someone inside your house has invited them in, the sentence goes back in your pocket. Consent stops mattering. Entry is lawful with or without your yes. And physically blocking that doorway converts you from occupant to offender. 12 months worth under 546E. Say the human part plainly. Those powers exist because behind some doors in this country, tonight, someone is praying the knock comes. This channel teaches the ordinary knock, never the emergency one. Now the pushes, for the ordinary knock only. Push one arrives wrapped in reasonableness. If there's nothing going on, why not just let us in for 2 minutes? You don't defend, you don't explain. Same words, same level, through the mesh. Officer, I'm happy to speak through the door. What's this about? And do you have a warrant or power to enter? I don't consent to you entering, and I'd rather not answer questions. Push 2 arrives wrapped in consequence. Push 2 arrives wrapped in consequence. We can sort this out here, or it becomes a bigger thing. Bigger how is never specified. Vagueness again. Wearing a heavier coat. Same sentence, same tone. Third hearing. Officer, I'm happy to speak through the door. What's this about? And do you have a warrant or power to enter. I don't consent to you entering, and I'd rather not answer questions. It's in your hands now, not your head. Now watch one ordinary knock run start to finish. Illustration, not a case. 10 to 7. Latch on. Evening. We've had a call about you. What's this about specifically? A pause, a notebook consulted. A neighbour's reported a dispute. Can you step outside for a chat? I'm happy to talk right here. Might be easier inside, mate. Officer, I'm happy to speak through the door. What's this about? And do you have a warrant or power to enter? I don't consent to you entering, and I'd rather not answer questions. A longer pause, because there wasn't a power. There was only a phone call. We'll note you've been spoken to. Have a good evening. Boots on the path, getting quieter. Nothing in that was defiance. Every question answered with a location. Every power invited to name itself, and none did. Now the fork's other arm, because sometimes a power is named. You unlatch, you step back. You say one thing as they pass, I don't consent, but I won't obstruct. And every remaining argument moves to a courtroom, where Kuru's 400,000 prove the argument is worth having. 2 edge cases. Your no doesn't bind your household. A housemate or partner can invite police in past your refusal. And in a domestic violence response, the believed victim's invitation overrides yours by statute. And the flyscreen is not armour, it's a line. Legally loud, physically nothing. Finally, 2 neighbours never to become. The porch lawyer reciting Halliday to a sergeant mid-emergency. And the wide open welcomer. Every one of these rules, the 4 doorways, the exact words, what changes at every state line, what to do if they come in anyway. I've gathered in a book called Know Your Rights, link in the description. So one breath, the path and the knock are licensed, the postman's license, nothing more. The threshold is yours, name and address only on a real trigger, never block a named power, and the sentence unchanged. Officer, I'm happy to speak through the door. What's this about? And do you have a warrant or power to enter? I don't consent to you entering, and I'd rather not answer questions. Carry the number that reframes the whole knock. One doorway dispute reached $418,000 at trial, and the High Court took away the officer's side of the argument, not the occupant's. This is general information. Legal aid exists in every state. Subscribe, not for luck, for the next threshold, so the next knock in your street finds a house that already knows the law. And take the ending you just earned. The latch clicking home, the kettle going back on, 2 sets of boots getting quieter down the path, and at the kerb, the wagon pulling away past a neighbour's porch, light flicking on. Another door about to learn. But when the hand at your door isn't asking to come in, when it's asking for the phone in your pocket and suggesting you just have a look at the screen to unlock it, that's a different trap entirely. Hiding inside it. That video is on your screen now. Or